Kemmon Wilson, a resident of Memphis, Tennessee, was inspired to build his own motel after being disappointed by poor quality and inconsistent roadside accommodation during a family road trip to Washington, D.C. The name Holiday Inn was coined by Wilson's architect, Eddie Bluestein, as a joke during construction of the first hotel, in the reference to the 1942 Christmas-themed musical film Holiday Inn, starring Bing Crosby and Fred Astaire. Their first hotel opened in August 1952 as Holiday Inn Hotel Courts at 4925 Summer Avenue in Memphis, Tennessee, the main highway to Nashville. In early 1990s, it was demolished, leaving behind a plaque commemorating the site. Wilson partnered with Wallace E. Johnson to build additional motels on the roads entering Memphis. At the time, Holiday Inn's corporate headquarters was in converted plumbing and shed owned by Johnson. In 1953, the company built its next three hotels, which, along with their first hotel, covered the roads that led to Memphis. The second motel was built in US 51 South. It was followed by two more in 1953, one on Highway 51 North and another one on US 61. Upon Johnson's death in 1988, Wilson was quoted as saying, "The greatest man I ever knew died today. He was the greatest partner a man could ever have." What they started together with Wilson, later helming the project, became Holiday Corporation, one of the largest hotel groups in the world. By the beginning of 1956, there was 23 Holiday Inns operating, with 7 more due to open by the end of the year. In 1957, Wilson began marketing the chain as Holiday Inn of America, mandating its properties be standardized, clean, predictable, family-friendly, and readily accessible to road travelers. The chain grew dramatically as a result, with 50 locations across the country by 1958, 100 by 1959, 500 by 1964, and 1,000 Holiday Inns opening by 1968. In 1965, the chain launched Holidex, a centralized reservation system where a visitor to any Holiday Inn could obtain a reservation by teleprinter for any other Holiday Inn location. The only comparable system at the time were operated by airlines. Promoting itself as your host from coast to coast, Holiday Inn added a call center after AT&T's introduction of 1-800 toll-free telephone number service in 1967, and updated its system as desktop microcomputers, an invention of the 1970s, found their way into travel agencies. Branded as the nation's innkeeper, the chain put considerable financial pressure on traditional motels and hotels, setting the standard for competitors like Ramada Inn, Quality Inn, Howard Johnson, and Best Western. By June 1972, of over 1,400 Holiday Inns worldwide, Wilson's was featured on the cover of Time magazine, and franchise motto became the world's innkeeper. In 1963, Holiday Inn signed a long-term deal with Gulf Oil Corporation, where it agreed to accept Gulf credit cards to charge food and lodging at all of its American and Canadian hotels, in return for Gulf building service stations on many Holiday Inn properties, particularly near major U.S. and interstate highways. The arrangement was copied by competing lodging chains and major oil companies during the mid to late 1960s, but fell out of favor following the 1973 oil crisis. The Gulf Holiday Inn arrangement ended around 1982. In 1971, the company constructed the Holiday Inn University Conference Center, a teaching hotel for training new employees in Olive Branch, Mississippi. In 1973, the company built the Olive Branch Airport north of the university as a home base for its corporate aircraft. The company later branched out into other enterprises, including MediCenter, nursing homes, Continental Trailways, Delta Queen, and Showbiz Incorporation, a television production company that specialized in syndicated country music shows. Wilson also developed the Orange Lake Resort and Country Club near Orlando and a chain called Wilson's World Hotels. The acquisition of Trailways in 1968 lasted until 1979, when Holiday Inn sold Trailways to a private investor, Henry Lee Hillman Sr. of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. In the years during which Trailways was a subsidiary of Holiday Inn, television commercials for Holiday Inn frequently showed a Trailways bus stopping at a Holiday Inn hotel. Wilson retired from the Holiday Inn in 1979. As of 2014, Wilson's family still operates hotels as part of the Kemmons Wilson Company of Memphis. The Great Sign was the roadside sign used by Holiday Inn during its original era of expansion from 1950s to the 1970s. It was perhaps the company's most successful form of advertising. It was extremely large and eye-catching, but was expensive to construct and operate. The manufacturer of the sign was Bolton and Sons Sign Company and was originally designed by sketch artists Gene Barber and Roland Alexander. Wilson wanted a prominent sign, desiring that it be at least 50 feet high and visible in both directions. He also wanted a changeable marquee to welcome different groups. The original sign cost $13,000. It is said that the sign's colors were selected because they were favorites of Wilson's mother. The popularity of the sign led to many imitations, some of which remain to this day. In 1982, following Wilson's departure, the Holiday Inn Board of Directors phased out the Great Sign in favor of a cheaper backlit sign. The decision essentially signaled the end of Wilson's era, and Wilson's considered to be the worst mistake they ever made. He loved the Great Sign so much that he was engraved on his tombstone, with the marquee reading Founder, and the arrow aimed at his name. The majority of the signs were sold as scrap metal and recycled. Several intact fragments of the famous sign have been restored and relit, mostly the Holiday Inn top section of the sign and the marquee box. In 2006, a complete sign was found. The disassembled sign, complete with star, marquee box, and the sign base, was discovered in a backlot in Minnesota. On June 3, 2007, it was purchased by a neon sign restoration expert in order to restore it to its 1950s appearance. It would be displayed at the National Save the Neon Sign Museum in North Dakota. An intact sign that came from a Las Vegas location stands outside of the American Sign Museum in Cincinnati, Ohio. Another intact and opening Holiday Inn Great sign is at the Henry Ford Museum in Dearborn, Michigan, and yet another is in the private collector in Park Hills, Kentucky. Although still a healthy company, changing business conditions and demographics saw Holiday Inn lose its market dominance in the 1980s. Holiday Inns Incorporation was named Holiday Corporation in 1985 to reflect the growth of the company's brands, including Harrah's Entertainment, Embassy Suites Hotels, Crowne Plaza, Homewood Suites, and Hampton Inn. In 1988, Holiday Corporation was purchased by UK-based Bass plc, followed by the remaining domestic Holiday Inn hotels in 1990. When founder Wilson sold his interest, after which the hotel group was known as Holiday Inn Worldwide. The remainder of Holiday Corporation, including Embassy Suites Hotels, Homewood Suites, and Hampton Inn brands, was spun off to shareholders as Promise Companies, Incorporated. In 1990, Bass launched Holiday Inn Express, a complementary brand in the limited service segment of the market. In 1997, Bass created and launched a new hotel brand, Staybridge Suites by Holiday Inn, entering the North America upscale extended stay market. In March 1998, Bass acquired the Intercontinental brand, expanding into the luxury hotel market. In 2000, Bass sold its brewing assets and the rights to the Bass name, and changed its name to Six Continents plc. Intercontinental Hotel Groups was created in 2003 after Six Continents split into two daughter companies, Michelle and Balters plc to handle restaurant assets, and IHG to focus on soft drinks and hotels, including the Holiday Inn brand. The name brand Holiday Inn is now owned by IHG, which has in turn licensed the name to franchisees and third parties who operate hotels under management agreements. On October 24, 2007, IHG announced a worldwide launch of the Holiday Inn brand, which spelled trouble for remaining motels. The relaunch was focused on delivering consistently best-in-class service and physical quality levels, including redesigned welcome experience and signature bedding and bathroom products. The first relaunch Holiday Inn opened in the U.S. in spring of 2008. Currently, there are more than 2,500 relaunch Holiday brands around the world, and Holiday Inn global brand relaunch process was completed by the end of 2010. The majority of Holiday Inn motels removed from the chain, with a few exceptions. When the relaunch occurred, these motels were either demolished or closed off. Even if a full-service hotel was already on site, today fewer than 10 Holiday Inn motels still operate. Others haven't been replaced by newer Holiday Inn Express locations or haven't switched to other chains altogether.